Welcome to another exciting episode of the $1 Million Peddlers. I'm Papergoy.
Now, Mr. Magazine.
I'm going to tell you about a deal, Mr. Magazine,
Okay.
and I want your opinion. Now, you know a little bit about this, but we're going to talk our way through it.
Okay.
So I went to an estate sale a couple of weeks ago, and they had exhibit cards. Now, you know what exhibit cards are?
I do.
They're the arcade cards, the exhibit cards. They go by either name. You used to go to, the arcade at an amusement park or a carnival or whatever like that. And you used to put your penny or your nickel or whatever you put in there, and you would get a card out that's basically postcard size is what it is. It's blank backed. And they had humor ones, they had actors and actresses, they had cowboy ones, they had sports ones, baseball, boxing. They even had football. They had a whole bunch of different subject matters out there. Cool cards. Really difficult to collect because most of them do have blank backs, so it's kind of hard to identify the years on them. A few of them do have statistic backs, at least on the sports ones. There are, not to go too deep down the rabbit hole, but some of them say made in USA, printed in USA. Depends upon where they are on the card. You can date them off of that. There's salutation ones, etc., etc. You are going down a deep, deep rabbit hole if you want to collect those. Let's put it that way. You really, truly are. And here's the crazy thing about it. Generally speaking, they're not worth a ton of money. They don't fly off the shelf. Maybe it's because they're oversized. Maybe it's because they have no statistics. They don't even have the team name on them. Whatever the reason is, people have, maybe it's because they reprinted a lot of the stars in the 1980s on. So a lot of people probably have some reprint ones in their collection and don't realize it. Whatever the case, they're not hot commodities by any means whatsoever. So I went to the estate sale, and they had more exhibit cards than I've ever seen in my life. They had a box, and it was probably, probably 12 by 8 by 6, filled with them. And they wanted $500. They had another box that was just a little bit smaller. They wanted $350. And then they had a couple of, they were still in the original wrapper that they were mailed out and are sent out in. Piles like this, they wanted like $100, $150 a pile.
What did that equate to per? They must have had some average of how many cards.
They didn't say.
Oh, okay. So
no.
So if there was 500 cards.
Oh, there were way more than 500 cards. So if you can fit 800 postcards in a box like this, you're probably talking 1, 2, 3, 4.
They're a little thicker, right, than a postcard, but still.
Still talking 32. You're probably talking 3,200 to 4,000 cards for $500. So, maybe even more than that. But I saw mostly duplicates. I didn't see any sports. I didn't go through every card, obviously. I didn't see any sports. And I saw a lot of duplicates and a lot of Westerns.
Now, who's the most famous one?
Out of there? I'm sure it was like Hopalong Cassidy, people like that. I mean, again, I didn't go through them very much. I just said, these are way too many dupes.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out what to do with them if I bought them. I went back the last day, and I was going to offer $100 on all of them. And even there, I didn't know what I was going to do with them. I go to where they were on the table, and they were gone. So I went to the...
what do you want originally for everything?
$500, $350, about $1,200, $1,400 probably for all of them. So you're probably talking 7,000 cards, something like that overall.
So what day was that? The first day, second day?
Second day, Friday, and then I went back on Sunday. Somebody bought them on Saturday.
Okay. So you probably got them for less than 1,000 though.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I
more
don't know
than 500, probably less than 1,000.
Which it was one of those that I pumped my fist when I saw they were gone, because that I don't know how I would sell them. And I was thinking, I did talk to you a little bit about it, Mr. Magazine. You'd get a couple of them graded, and you get a 10, and you're able to sell it. And you would think if you have factory new unopened, you would think there should be a 10 in there.
Yeah.
So great, you send a couple in, but you can't send 40 of the same. You can't send 40 of the same ace of whatever in, because that's going to kill the market.
Right. Well, even if you put one of every one or two of everyone, that's still going to be a lot of money.
Well, I'm not even talking about
different, but say there's 10 different, and you send in, for 10, you're still talking,
a few $100. Yeah,
exactly.
But I'm not even talking about the $100, a couple $100 outlay. I'm talking about say money were no object. If I got 40 of the ace of hearts graded, the market's going to crash.
Oh, yeah.
Because now there are 40 10s. There probably aren't 40 people looking for the 10.
Now, you're better off almost getting different grades then. That's the only thing going. Because if you had 10 10s is great. You don't want to sell 10 10s at a time. You want to sell one at a time. And now whatever, say the first one goes for 800, now you're setting a precedent. Now it's going to go for less the second time around, and then less and less and less and less. But you could make a killing, but it's a risk. You know, for $100 you're good. For 1,000, it might take you a while to get your money back.
Somebody locally did buy it, and I do know who that person is through somebody else. They told me who it was. So I'm going to follow up and try to find out what they paid and what they're going to do with them. Now, I did talk to this other person and said that the person who bought them was very, very happy about it. What would you do if I came into your place, if I'd paid $100 for them, and I took one of each out for my collection?
Yep.
Fair enough. You're not going to notice them missing. I come in with the rest of them, and I say, hell of a deal for you, Mr. Magazine. You're giving me $200, and you buy them. What are you doing with them?
I would grade one of each of the nicest condition ones for sure. At some point in time, I want to build all my stuff. Usually, I'll save up for $1,000, $2,000, and then I'll get a bunch of stuff graded. Then one of each I would have to put on eBay, and then maybe a whatnot. But even then, how many can you do? You'd have to mix it in with other stuff because you can't do an hour whatnot for 10 different cards if that's what you had.
Yeah, it might be 25 cards or something like that.
Yeah, but I guess I would do that then, and then one lot on eBay, maybe one lot on whatnot. Mix it up a little bit so you're not flooding the market, but you're spreading out. Everything's different, for the most part. And then you get your money back, and the rest can sit. And then when the cards come back in 2 months or 3 months, you sell those. Then you send another batch in. When they come back in 2 or 3 months, then you send another batch in. So that's how you do it. So your first graded batch pays for the next one and the next one and so forth. And if you get some 10s, you could be out of it your first time around.
I did talk to the person who was holding the estate sale, and they said, oh, yeah, the guy was happy to get them, but he said it would take him a few years to get out of them. I literally laughed out loud, and I said, I got to find out what he's doing because I think it would have taken me 100 years to get out of them.
Well, and the grading is more money, too, because they're oversized. So it might be, like with shipping, it might be $50 a card, I bet. So that's a lot of money. You're buying them all for $200. Now you're paying $50 just to grade each one, which is crazy.
So the only idea that I came up with, and tell me what you think of this idea, Mr. Magazine.
Okay.
Now, obviously, I didn't get them, so it's no big deal. But, if you're into them for such a cheap price to start with, and again, I may be off of my count. There may be twice that number of cards. I don't really know. Obviously, I didn't count them. I just said, ooh, wow. You get a stamp with your name on it, and you stamp the back of them as advertising. Cheaper than getting advertising cards printed.
That's true. And I would probably...
and people are going to remember that.
Yeah, I would obviously do the cheaper ones and then the least condition ones. If any were in bad condition or lesser condition, I would probably do that with those, sure.
So, just an idea. And I want to bring this up because, A, there's huge deals out there. B, trying to figure out how to get rid of them and how to get rid of a collection like that. And C, my idea would be thinking outside the box.
No, we should have done it. I didn't think of it at the time, but we should have went in partners and made an attempt the next day on it. And then you could have sold the singles, and I could have gotten some graded or something like that, so just a thought.
Yeah, I was stunned they were sold, but I was happy that they were sold because, again, they would really take up a fair amount of room and probably wouldn't do anything with them for a while. At $100, I don't care.
Right.
At $1,000, I do care.
Yeah, true.
Do it the like button if you could, and we'll see you next video.
Take care. Bye-bye.